What's going on, guys? Kigerr here, and today we're doing a breakdown of my Wolverine infographic. You can find it in the comment section down below on my Discord server. We're going to be going over each decision. Let's get into it. Alright, guys, so we're here looking over my Wolverine infographic. Just as a reminder, I went over 300 dimensional battles, tested all armor sets, regional and specials, as well as 30 Omega Wars and 20 Alliance Raid Step 15 Plus to make this. There's more testing I can do and will do, but this is where I'm at right now with Wolverine. So starting off, armor sets, I have Iso, Cyrus, and Kigerr. I've gotten the question about Savage Shadowlands. Savage Shadowlands is great and it's fine. The issue being that its 2 set is HP recovery, which caps at 200%, whereas Kigerr is 2 set attack, which has no cap. So, I mean, it's fine. It'll get you places, but as you start maxing out stats, Kigerr just becomes better as time goes on. Next, we'll get into our top stats. PvP decrease, defense pierce. I got some questions about defense pierce because of how his rupture works. And while defense pierce is worse on Wolverine than other characters, it still is the most valued stat, second most valued in PvP. Behind PvP decrease because of how the calculation works. So what happens is, assume you have max rupture, which will be 30% defense down. So assume they have 100 defense, minus 30, now it's 70, and now your 75% defense pierce is going to go off of that 70, not the 100. So it has diminishing returns, but it's more effective. It ends up being like 60 something percent off of that 70, which is still ridiculous. PvP increase, we want more damage, crit damage, and HP recovery as our stat. So this can change when we talk about the specs. If you end up changing one of the specs we're going to talk about, then total damage would be the 5th slot you go after. I like Chavez as the companion. You have options of Hulk, obviously, he's always going to be an option. The baby group people are working on, I don't think it's going to have legs, just because of how slow the baby Groot is. But if you're using Ultron, the baby Groot becomes Ultron plus some upside. So you can always try that out. Going into our skills, first we have morale boost, which gives attack percent bonus and ultimate gauge recovery. This we're always going to use this first. It lets us get to our ultimate as quick as possible. Then the next one is 2 dashes. You dash forward and then do a spin kick backward. This gives you plus 120% dodge rate, which, so myself, I have 30% myself, 30 something percent. So it puts my dodge rate at 150 something percent, which is way above Spider-Man, but it's for 1.2 seconds, and it has a somewhat long cooldown. Ends up being roughly 7 seconds at max cooldown. So, a good portion of the time you're able to keep this up, which is why it's the first thing I use in combat. I'll have gameplay footage at the end. Then this next one does 4 dashes, and each one he teleports and slashes. The full damage is between the 4 hits, so it's equal damage for each hit, but each hit has a separate chance of critting. The next one is your hardest hitting skill because it does 2 drop downs. You disappear, drop down for damage, disappear, drop down for damage, and then dash forward. That dash does a majority of the damage. So base, it's like 1500% damage. It'll be like 300, 300, 900. Our last one right here is our mark target. And what that's there for, it's a combo skill. So you hit them with the mark, and then you do something else, which will do the damage. And the reason it's set up like this is it's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the idea here is that once you hit them with 5, then 3 or 4 should be ready to go off and nuke that big damage. I have it at the end instead of the front. The idea, because a lot of people want to hit the mark first and then go off into the damage, which that's fine. But because in PvP everyone's one-shotting each other, I like to get the dodge up before I start going into my combo. Cards we got right here. Crit damage, defense pierce, crit damage, defense pierce, cooldown, crit damage. So everyone got the new veteran card. I'm going to start adding the veteran card to my Omega card setups. Because everyone got it for free, you get 3 stats. You'd be an idiot not to use it. Then we come down here into our active traits. Gives you 15. Red one right here gives you 15% ultimate gauge every 3 times you use a evolved hunter. Which the number 4 right here, some people are using the first version, the dash. Sorry, number 3, people are using the first version, the dash, because it does roughly the same damage, has much lower cooldown. The issue here being that the dash doesn't track at all. So if someone's swinging around or whatever, like Scarlet Witch or Spider-Man, which are primarily opponents in Dimension Duel, then you're kind of screwed unless you have another set to hot swap to. But every 3 times you use these 2 skills, you get 15% ultimate gauge recovery, scaled based off of your ultimate gauge. I'm going to skip the orange so we can talk about that last. Then this yellow gives us cooldown on our hunter skills when we use Swift Strike with a 8-second cooldown. I think I believe it's 8-second cooldown. This seems to be off of the max cooldown, so if you have 50% cooldown, it's going to go off the max, giving you a bigger bang for your buck. Green is a life cheat death ability. When you go down and you would die, you instead go to 1 and you can't die. As you scale it, it's for longer, up to about 4 seconds. And it also activates Hot Claws, your ultimate ability, which gives you bonus damage on targets with Rupture and Lacerate. The issue with Lacerate in PvP is they can cleanse, they can dodge, it doesn't track very well. And that leads into the biggest issue with Wolverine is 3 and 4 are your big hitting skills, and they track. They track decently well. The issue being if the opponent runs or does like a little circle motion, you end up missing some, if not all, of the hits. But a good Wolverine player will be able to disable dodge with number 5 and then go into it, making it harder for the opponent to stop the effects. Last, we have the orange, which I was wrong about this. I thought it was giving 20k attack because in its line of text it says 100 per 1% of HP recovery. That's saying what the max number would be, and then you get 30% of that. So it ends up being 6k, which still, I talked to some Magics and some Captain Americas. They're getting in the 6 to 8k range from their spec as well. So this is still, in the realm of good. But this one can also be swapped out for the one that I'm looking at is in the top right hand corner. If you have 1 dodge or less, you take 22% less damage. These 4 are good. This is the only questionable one being the orange, which you can go into I believe it's purple instead. Next, let's go into Omega War. For Omega War, we're using the same outfits, the same stats. Change the companion to Mighty Thor because we have multiple targets. She's going to crash down, do her thing. Cards are the same. Like I said, I'm going to, in the future, add the new veteran card to this. Then our abilities. So the 3 of them are the same, not the same order, but the first 3 right here are the same. So instead of number 5, it's number 1, and 2 is still the same, 3 is still the same. Only thing that have changed, we're still using all the same abilities, but different versions of it. So number 4 So the first number 4 is jump down, dash. This number 4 is dash forward, dash back with a lot more damage. And the reason why we're doing that in Omega War is because there's so many people, you're able to easily dash through, dash back, and get a good amount of damage across the board. You can still do the first version. The issue being is if there's crystals on the board, if there's hulks, if there's holograms, anything like that, it really messes up with this version of number 4. Then the last one, while you can use morale boost in Omega War and it will be fine, because your ultimate does do cool things in Omega War, I prefer the heal, cleanse, and immunity skill because everyone's guard breaking, everyone's throwing down confusions with Lokis and stuff. So you become completely immune, you can ignore that and go do your thing. Also, as you all obviously know, everyone likes to take the crystals, where with the self heal, you're able to fend for yourself. And if we look at the specs, we're using the same first 3. The If you still want to take off the orange, you can still go for that top right purple. But the one that we're using down here is when you use a Swift Strike, you heal based off of that Swift Strike and the next skill. So if you go number 2, number 3, or number 1, number 3, or number 4, 1 and 2 are both Swift Strikes, number 3 and 4 are both Hunters. So if you can go either 1 or number 2, and then either number 3 or number 4, and you'll heal based off of both skills combined. So you hit, nuke, and then you should be getting a good amount of HP, especially with HP recovery, which will increase the amount that you're healing. This has no cooldown, so as long as you have Swift Strikes up, you can keep healing and healing and healing. Next, we get into Alliance Raid. I've gotten the question, why Punisher and not something like Cersei, Athena, things like that? So, while those are great in Omega War, if everyone's following this guide, and everyone has Cersei, Kate Bishop, what have you, then it's a net negative for the team, right? Because if you have Athena, and then your buddy uses Athena, it just resets it. It doesn't stack on top of each other. Same with down with Kate Bishop or Cersei. So Punisher is the best for your personal DPS gain. A close second would be America Chavez. If you don't have the resources to bring up Punisher, you can just stay on America Chavez from the Dimension Duel build, and she will do fine. You can still push numbers, but Punisher will be your best version. Our stats have changed slightly. Defense Pierce is still good. So that specifically leaned towards Alliance Raid, and Dark Zone, they have adjusted down defenses, so it is less. So in Dark Zone specifically, it would be more like supervillain damage than Defense Pierce. But if we're factoring in both at the same time, then it's well and above Defense Pierce then supervillain damage. Then we got crit damage, HP recovery, and total damage. Our cards are supervillain damage, defense pierce, supervillain damage, defense pierce, supervillain damage, defense pierce. Our skills this is a combo setup. So what we got here is we got our boost with plus attack, plus ultimate gauge, then our mark, then our lacerate, then we got our mark, then our shred. This spin right here applies rupture, which your basic also does, but this applies it several times, shredding that armor. Then you have lacerate right here, which does the damage over time, which will do more because they're now ruptured. And then you hit them with your biggest nuke. So what happens here is you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5. And that is your biggest nuke that you can possibly do, and I'll explain why with the traits. So the first one right here is plus 21% damage on single target. This will change depending on the alliance raid that you're doing, because you have things like Mordo or Thanos that have multiple targets, but on things like Crow or Mephisto, it is a single target, so it's just a net 21% damage bonus. The second one is I like how they worded this one. It's supervillain damage that it calls out specifically goes past the cap. So what that means is even if you have 75% supervillain damage, this still gives you bonus supervillain damage. Then this third one is a very, very sneaky one right here. And what it does is if you hit a ruptured target, you do 10% bonus damage, which you apply with your basic and you also apply with number 3. And then you do 30% damage if they're lacerated, which is our number 4. It also allows you to do both. So if you have both up, then you're doing 40% bonus damage, which is the highest single damage gain from a spec. That's why 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, once 5 goes off, which if you're using Eyes of Osiris is a 2900% damage skill, plus 21%, plus 75 and 15, plus 90%, plus 40%, plus 6k attack right here, and that's your nuke. And remember that your companions get bonuses based off of your stats. So the single target damage from number 1 and the supervillain damage from number 2 apply to Punisher, which is something to definitely keep note of. And there you have it, guys. Stick around. I'm going to play some of my Dimension Duel games through my testing to give you an idea of how it works in action. And let me know what you guys want to see down below. Till next time, guys.